Hello. And today we'll be playing the newest update of Heart of Amethyst. So this should start chapter 4. So each character has new content now, so we're going to start with Almond first, then Roderick, then Akalis last. So Roderick, well, the color of the crystals here go by the character's eye color. So Roderick has green eyes, so his crystal is green, and Roderick has red eyes, so his crystal is red, and Akalis has blue eyes, so his crystal is blue. So we'll go ahead and start with Almond. Darkness enveloped my whole consciousness. Once more, I found myself in a pool of nothingness with no physical body to call my own. I could hear many voices all over the void, whispering to me, calling me, taunting me. I couldn't help but wonder if any of this was real or if it was just my fucked up brain playing tricks to me in my sleep. As of late, I've been able to retain more and more details about these dreams of mine. Each time the voice in my head keeps getting louder and louder before it can reach me, I wake up. It scared me to think that this time it would actually catch me, but it never does. Even so, every fiber of my being was on high alert, ready for whatever had to happen. Come to pay me a visit yet again? Always a goody two-shoes, aren't you? Tell me, what will you accomplish in life if you only think about others? Isn't being selfish a part of a mortal's nature? What do you want from me? As I asked that, the eerie voice laughed maniacally, which caused a stinging pain to spread throughout my entire being. Sit up, please stop. I pleaded, but nothing happened. The pain never ceased, and the taunting continued. Wave after wave of excruciating pain rushed through me. I couldn't tell what was happening anymore, and I'm sure that if I had a body, it would be revolting and thrashing around. How is this possible? Why am I feeling this much pain in a dream? You are a fool. Nothing but a pawn in a much bigger game. Just then, when I was on the brink of madness, a white light shined right over the void, turning all that darkness into something more pure and soothing. I no longer felt pain, and the aches of my soul felt meaningless. As my consciousness started to fade, the last thing I saw was the silhouette of Mom. I woke up in a cold sweat. I was drenched in it actually. My palms were shaky, and the tears would not stop running down my cheeks. What the actual fuck was that? I never had such a vivid dream before. What I felt, what I saw. Was any of that real? Man, what is wrong with me lately? I rubbed my temples trying to catch my bearings. The room was very dark, with the only thing illuminating it being the dim light of dawn coming through the window. Man, I've only been within the walls of this castle for 2 days, and so far I've had 2 of these horrible nightmares. I can barely sleep anymore. I don't think I'll last the other 5 days we will be staying here if things don't change. I looked down on my pillow covered up in sweat, and I cringed at the thought of going back to sleep. Maybe I could find something to entertain myself with. A bath was always an option, I suppose. Yeah, let's do that. After one long and very relaxing bath, I decided to just wander around the halls of the castle. Eventually, the mindless walking took me to the stone bench under a tree in the castle's gardens. I yawned, feeling the lack of sleep finally getting the upper hand of me. Goddesses, was I sleepy and unoccupied. Even so, I really didn't want to go back to bed as that dream shook me to my core. So I tried to come up with a plan to entertain myself. And after a few minutes of thinking, I decided that the best option would be to Well, thinking about it, I didn't get to see much of the markets as I was busy worrying about the mission. Maybe going there could help me relax. So I decided to jump to this point here because apparently the new update started off basically how the last update started also. But this should have been a point where the new update started, but instead it started further back in the previous update, so I had to fast forward to get to this point where Almond leaves Ellie. So basically save about 15 or 20 minutes if I skip up here. I made a save file here back last year at this point where the last update left off by Almond. But this new update started basically from where the last update started. Or was it the update before that? I don't know. Can't speak. But anyway, let's go ahead and, well, this save file doesn't work, so I'm just using it as an example, but anyway. The wolf gave me one last smile and away before he set off into the crowd. I, on the other hand, remained there, finishing my half-melted apple. Master, are you sure I can't do anything for you? The little dog trailed behind me as I walked around the castle halls. He tried to act tough and professional, but his face betrayed how worried he was feeling inside. And to be honest, I can't blame him. After all, I will also be worried about the guy that woke up screaming in the middle of the night. I just wish he hadn't seen that. Zach, I'm telling you, I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me. I've been having some night terrors lately. They'll go away eventually. Now that was just hopeful thinking, because I had no guarantee that these freaking nightmares would ever leave me alone. But I had to hold off to any hope there was left. But what if we consult with the royal healer? I once went there with this terrible stomach ache, and he healed me in no time. Really, Zach? You comparing a stomach ache with night terrors? Well, no. But it wouldn't help to try, right? Goddesses, bless his soul, he's pussy. I sighed as I leaned on a nearby wall, trying to look anywhere but Zach, and his sad puppy eyes were killing me. It's too early in the morning anyways. I bet the healer is not even up yet. Besides, I'll make an appointment then. Right there, master. Before I could say anything else, the smaller dog started sprinting to Goddess's nowhere, leaving only dust behind. He's going to find someone, isn't he? Damn it, he's too damn early for this crap. I really don't know what he's hoping to accomplish. There's no cure for nightmares, you just endure them. Relaxing herbs, really? That's all he could come up with? Turns out I was right. The royal healer was busy and didn't have an opening for a fox with nightmares. Still, the little dog searched high and low until he found this one-of-the-mill healer shop. This turned out to be just a crazy old man in hero robes that prescribed me freaking herbs. And I find that insulting actually. I had bad dreams, not a stress problem. I don't need relaxing herbs. But Master, it wouldn't hurt to try, right? Want me to make them into a nice tea? I looked back at the puppy, whose eyes were growing bigger by the second. The whole thing really meant a lot to him, didn't it? So even if I think it's a stupid idea, perhaps I should oblige for his sake. If I say yes, will you stop pushing me? Yes, absolutely, Master. Cross my heart and hope to die. Alrighty then, please take those back to the castle. I'll drink a cup each night, as the healer suggested, and if it works, then great. But if it doesn't, at least we tried. Deal? To be honest, I'm almost certain it's not going to make a difference, but it's worth it if it'll make him feel better. Also, this whole predicament has made me wonder what my mom would do in a situation like this. She was such a wonderful healer. There was not a single person that came to see her walk away. There was not a single person that came to see her which walked away dissatisfied. It was like she had this power that made people feel better even just by being close to her. Me included. Man, I really miss her. Anyway, Zach, if you're done worrying about me, I'm sure you got lots of stuff to take care of. I'll stick around this part and see if I can buy myself something nice. So unless you want to be my personal mule, you're free to go. But, well, if you need me to stay... No, that was just a joke, buddy. I sighed at the dog's inability to understand sarcasm, then I placed my hand on his shoulder and smiled. I mean it. Don't let me keep you here. Go make yourself useful. He blushed at that, looking down to the ground as he avoided my stare. Yes, Master. I will see you tonight then. See you. The young dog bowed before turning around and walking down the street back to the royal castle. I feel a little guilty for using his work as an excuse to force him to go back and leave me by myself. But he was being really pushy today, and I just want to relax. Talking about relaxing and seeing that I'm already here on the market street, maybe I should check out some of these stores. I haven't had a chance to fully browse some of these. Although things up here are quite expensive, I wouldn't want to blow through my savings in a single day, so I shouldn't be too frivolous. With that in mind, where should I go first? Well, it's probably a good time to try my luck on one of those. After all, I've never shopped for clothes before. All I've ever worn had been hand-sewn by either Mr. Biscotti or never by him. What I'm trying to say here is that I don't even know what to look for, but I want to give it a try. Besides, I should really give these old garments a rest. They're not in the best shape, and I pretty much wear the same outfit every single day. Thank you, Zach, for washing and drying them. Blessed be your heart. So yeah, I should make it easier on the little dog and buy a set or two. Maybe even fancy myself an item of gold or silver. I doubt it though. Not really my style, or as some would say, I lack a proper sense of taste. Oh well, what's the harm? Now I'm even more curious. They're going to have to call me Sir Illy, the Glamorous. Walking down the street, I indeed found myself victim of my lack of experience. There were at least a dozen clothing stores on this side of the street, and I'm sure that if I turned the corner, I would find a dozen more. And worst of it all, They all looked the same to me, so I had no idea where to begin. Nonetheless, I still tried to find one in which there weren't many clients. However, at this time of the day, all of them were packed with buyers. Worst of all, no matter where I looked, none of the stores seemed like they would have anything that would fit my taste. Fair ladies wearing over-the-top dresses, manly and handsome gentlemen wearing uncomfortable-looking suits. Like I've said before, I'm not one to buy fancy suits, and I already have the one the king gifted me. Moreover, I hardly ever use that one as it is. Defeated, I decided to sit on the edge of a fountain. It was a warm morning, but I could feel the autumn wind already rustling my fur. Thinking back, I can't hardly believe I spent all my summer stuck inside a castle or an island. It feels like a fairy tale. I wonder how Mrs. Biscotti is doing. He always preferred the hot weather, saying the cold would make his bones cranky. Although I'm certain they were cranky to start with. I chuckled at the thought, looking down into the fountain. The water was so clear that you could easily see the hundreds of silver and golden coins tinkling under the surface like precious pearls, just waiting to be grabbed by any lucky finder. Although no one would ever dare, as it's a bad omen to steal other people's wishes. Man, I haven't thrown a coin into a fountain since I was a little puppy. It's an old tradition and comes from the times of the First War, when the birds enslaved the canine tribes. The ones that rebelled used to be stoned to death. Birds wouldn't allow them to bury the dead. Instead, the corpses would often be fed to wild beasts. So, to mourn their losses, the remaining canines would take those same stones and throw them into the nearby lakes. That was before the church established the beliefs of the eternal garden in the endless void. Still, the custom remains to this day. I looked down at the fountain once more, thinking to myself that it couldn't hurt to try. So I went into my back pocket, aiming for my coin purse, where I found the silver antres which sparkled under the sun. Closing my eyes, I proceeded to think of a proper wish for the occasion. I really wish I could be with you, I uttered under my breath, and then I flipped a coin. It meant the water with a gentle splash, and it soon sank to the bottom, joining its new companions. I didn't think you was a superstitious type, mate. A hand landed on my shoulder, startling me to death. A shirtless Almond greeted me with a gentle smile afterwards. Noticing who it was, I tried to get my act together by smiling back to him. I'm not, I just felt in the mood. Almond looked at me with inquisitive eyes, probably trying to judge if what I was saying was true. Oh yeah? What do you wish for then? I'll not tell you. It won't come true then. Thought you said you weren't superstitious. I'm not. Well, I am. I think this type of thing helps us keep our hopes up. I suppose you've got a point. Although, personally, I don't like to live in a fantasy. Ah, I see. We got a skeptic here. But in a world where men can create fire from thin air, what bad can a bit of wonder do? Almond said that with a slick smile, as if he were a character in a cheesy fantasy novel. Anyway, what are you doing here? Finally decided to buy a shirt? What? No way, mate. A shirt would take away half of my charm. He seamlessly flexed his muscles in front of me, making sure to balance his pecs and show his armpits as he did so. My cheeks turned a little red at the display, but I tried to play it cool. You avoided the question, as if he were a small kid being called out. Almond dropped his whole attempt at flirting and then looked at me with a slight blush. Ah, yes, that. I was just looking for it. A trinket. He looked away, still blushing and scratching the back of his head in the process. Why was he acting so secretive? What could be so embarrassing about Almond's standards? A trinket? A trinket. What sort of trinket? You know, the sort you use. Oh yeah? Used for what? The man was growing more and more nervous by the second, but I wasn't about to let him off the hook so easily. It was my turn for some sweet revenge. I'm not letting it go, Almond. Maybe you should, mate. But I'm not. I crossed my arms firmly and looked up at him with a raised eyebrow and a grin. Yeah, fine. You win, mate. He stared out of the blue, grabbing my hand and dragging me to Goddess's nowhere. I normally would have complained about this behavior, but I was too excited to find out about Almond's little secret. We walked for a few minutes through the crowded streets, his hand never letting go of mine. At some point, it made me feel a bit self-conscious, but I pushed those thoughts aside as I noticed not a single soul was paying us any attention. Besides, his hand was warm and soft, with a certain masculine roughness to it, which felt nice. Outside, eventually we arrived at a very secluded shop situated within a back alley. From the outside, you could barely notice it was a shop, but there was a sign that hung proud for everyone to see. It read, Annalise's Corner. What am I looking at? The skin mate with a talking sign. And with only that said, he hurried me inside the shop, urging me to not ask any further questions. The inside of the building was very nicely lit, with natural lighting entering through the many windows on the walls. A massive contrast from the looks of the outside. The most prominent colors in the room were beige and woodish brown, giving the shop a nice, homely ambience. However, the room itself was not what caught my attention, but rather the dozens of feminine underwear that were being sold in the establishment. There were also many underdresses and even some lingerie displayed in one of the corners. I turned to look at Almond with an inquisitive and maybe a little accusatory look on my face, so I wasn't imagining things. You really do like feminine clothing. Look, mate, it's not what you think. I ain't come here to buy myself some lady's clothes, It's just that Lady Anne is my old acquaintance. She's the only one I trust to deal with me. Undergarments. I couldn't help but laugh at the situation. It was so freaking cute that I felt like dying. Oh my God, Almond, this is priceless. I thought you were going to tell me something way worse. Right, come on, don't laugh. I could see Almond's body physically relax as his shoulders dropped and even his tail started wagging lightly. What about you? What were you doing before I kidnapped you? Oh well, see these old things? I pointed at my shirt and then my pants. These are kind of the only clothes I own. So yeah, I'm looking for a new spare. Oh, now what? Almond, is that you? Out of the back of the store, a wilderness wolf made his appearance. He was a bit shorter than me, and his fur pattern was a combination of brown and white. He wore a white shirt beneath a green overgarment bristling with pins and needles. His blue trousers were fastened with a worn leather belt, from which a rolled-up measuring tape hung, swaying slightly with each step. However, the most unique aspect of the wolf was his left eye, which appeared to have lost its light a long time ago. The wolf walker walked closer to us, standing in front of Almond. His smile was wide and sweet, and when he grabbed Almond's shoulder as if he were his brother, I couldn't help but feel warm and fuzzy inside. God is this mate. Would it kill you to come visit more often? Sometimes it takes you months to remember we even exist. The brown wolf acted as if she were mad at the wolf, but the subtle wags of his tail betrayed his real feelings. I'm sorry, Damien. I'll be coming more often, I promise. Almond's cheeks were turning red as he looked down the floor. He was probably embarrassed by the display of affection, but I personally found it adorable. Yes, you better. As Wolf said that, he stopped his relentless attack on Almond and then turned his attention towards me. I nervously smiled back, but said nothing, as I wasn't sure what to say. And who's this? Ah yes, Damien. This is Ellie. Ellie, this is an old friend, Damien. It's a pleasure to meet you. Let's put Achilles' etiquette classes to the test. After all, it's always a good idea to make a great first impression. Oh my, quite a fancy pants, aren't you? And good looking too. Yeah, I think so too. Almond's sincere smile made my cheeks burn up hotter than ever before, even more than those times he has bluntly flirted with me. Wait, is this Almond's way to present me to his family? No way. Are they even related? Is this like a formal thing? Is he formally asking me out? Thank you, sir. You're so kind. This one's quite the cat's, mate. Won't let him get away, will you? Trust me, mate. I'm trying. They looked at each other for a brief second, and then started laughing at my expense. Meanwhile, I just remained there, taking a hit like it's him, until eventually I decided to change the subject. Almond, didn't you come here for something? Ah, of course, I almost forgot. Damien, is Auntie Anne around? I placed an order with her. Are they ready? Yeah, they should be ready. I saw her sewing them herself a week ago. I keep telling her to let me do it, but when it comes to you, she insists on doing it herself. I personally think she cuddles you too much. Anyway, Grandma's resting, so I'll bring them. Better not wake her up when she's taking her morning nap. Thank you, mate. He waved his hand dismissively, as if whatever favor he did for the wolf was not a big deal. Then he disappeared into the back of the store. You are the closest thing to a family I have, Almond said as the man had already vanished behind the curtains. They seem like nice people. They do, ain't it? How did you meet them? Well, when I first arrived in the city, I really needed a new pair of underwear urgently, but none of the assholes out there ever met me in the eye. As far as I know, they didn't think I was good enough for their fancy stores. In any case, as I was about to give up, I felt a gentle touch on my hand. Aunt Annie said to me, "Are you lost, dear? Let me help you." At first, I didn't understand what she meant, but then she took me back here. And the rest is history, mate. Been coming back every few months, even when I don't need a new spare. Damien eventually sold up. He's not her actual grandson, but she decided to give him a job. Auntie Anne is just nice like that. Aw, that's really sweet of her. I would love to meet her. She's a button. I'm sure you would love her. Aw, who would have thought you have a heart? Almond punched me playfully on the arm. His cheeks were a little red, and his tail hadn't stopped wagging since he started his story. All right, mate. Here you have them. Damien came back into the room with one pair of underwear on each of his hands. Almond quickly snatched them out and hid them in his bag. No need to sew in my undies, mate. Oh, come on, mate. I'm sure he's seen more than your underwear already. No need to be shy. You're always bringing all these boys and girls into the store. You're like a bastard. Seriously though, Auntie and I have been talking about it, and we think it wouldn't hurt you to tie the knot with one of them for once. We're worried about you. At that exact moment, as Damien continued with his ranting, I couldn't bear to look at them anymore, so I turned my head around and pretended to be looking at some clothes, which made no sense, since these are all women's clothes. No, mate, you got the wrong idea. Come on, mate, no need to be sorry with me. Besides, this is my favorite among all the others you brought so far. Okay, yeah, I can't take this anymore. I need to get the hell out of here. Of course, he didn't bring me here because he thought it would be special. He brought me here because it's his flirting strategy. I'm just one more of the bunch, right? So I don't want to be here anymore than I need to be. I'm gonna go. I'll see you at the castle. No, wait, Ellie. Completely ignoring the wolf's puppy eyes, I looked at the other wolf with a smile on my face. It was nice meeting you, Sir Damien. Ellie, please, let me explain, mate. And with that, not wanting to hear even a single word coming out of his mouth, I exited the boutique. Damn, I didn't even get to buy clothes. Sitting under the trees always brings peace to my mind, no matter how agitated it is. No matter what sort of issues are going through my brain, nothing beats relaxing under the shade of a good old woody friend. Besides, I enjoy doing this when I'm alone. It's just me in the tree and nothing else matters. I let out a sigh as I looked up into the branches and leaves of my so-called friend. As much as I wanted to lay back and sleep, last night I had one of those awful nightmares, which is why I'm currently in this predicament once more. Being awake at the break of dawn with nothing to do but drown myself in my own thoughts and sorrows. I was probably just being overdramatic, but my brain was fried, at least until now. As I was getting tired of doing nothing, believe it or not, so yet again I'm presented with a choice. What should I do today? Well, since I'm already here, might as well do some exploring. There's probably hundreds of corners in this palace that I haven't checked out yet, which means this is the perfect chance to familiarize myself with this massive building and maybe find some secret treasure. I slapped myself mentally for even thinking about stealing something, as that pretty much is what got me in this position in the first place. But anyways, I better not waste any more time. To adventure. My walk through the castle was actually quite insightful. I visited the kitchen and met a few people from the staff. They were all very nice and even treated me to some freshly baked apple pie. Then I went to the back of the castle and traversed the huge garden, which was filled with many kinds of flowers. There was even a greenhouse where they keep the most exotic plants you can imagine. Although when I tried grabbing the juiciest looking fruit, I was smacked in the head with a cane. Apparently the old lady that tends the plants doesn't like anyone going near them, as only the royal family has access to them. That was a big bummer. That aside, though, it was quite the pleasant trip. Eventually, I went over the upper floors of the castle. There were many rooms in which I was not allowed in, but one of the few ones I was given access to blew my mind. There was a huge 2-store library built in there with tons of books. Although I must be honest, I completely ignored the books as my attention was mostly drawn to the many displays. From animal bones to exquisite paintings to even a huge atlas painted on the wall. Everything looked so grand and majestic that I suddenly felt really small. And to make it all even better, on the 3rd floor there was an observatory with astros, charts, and a massive telescope. I didn't know how it worked, so I didn't even touch it, just in case. I admired it thoroughly nevertheless. Throughoutly, nevertheless. After my detour to the library, I had a delicious lunch in my room, pork and mashed potatoes. And now I'm here, just taking in the view of the empty ballroom. A few days back I didn't really get the chance to admire the beauty of this room properly. Now though, with all the guests gone, I feel a strange sense of greatness as I stand here. Yet somehow it feels like there's something missing. This room was made to be filled with people, but for the most part, it's completely empty and void of life. So then, does that mean the mere existence of this place is meaningless, or does it gain meaning only when the people are present? What sad and peculiar reality to be tied to the existence of others. As I follow my thoughts, I inch closer to the throne. The big golden statue looked down at me with a solemn expression. This man was most likely King Andrews, the greatest hero in the history of the Canine Kingdom. Sometimes I wonder what he must have been like. Maybe he was all stoic and serious, wasn't like. Or perhaps happy and optimistic like Almond, or even serious and awkward like Collis. All the history books I've read always paint him as this gallant and magnificent savior ready to die for his kingdom. However, not a single one says anything about who he really is, who he was, what he liked, what he enjoyed, or even who he loved. Just a big hero that saved the kingdom. While I'm busy daydreaming about bygone days, a slight creak lets me know that a door has been opened. And once I turn around, I see Almond making his way towards my location. Hey mate, fancy meeting you here. What's up to? A face smile crossed my face as I saw him, and he returned it in kind. Nothing much. I was going around, exploring the castle, and I just ended up here, admiring this statue. Did you know there's not a single book that talks about King Andrews' taste in music or his younger life? Everyone just seems to forget he was a person at all, and not just a hero of the people. It's a little sad. Even a big figure like him ended up being nothing more than a symbol. Nobody remembers him for who he really was. Well, not much of a reader myself. Shocking. Almond chuckled at my comment, but decided to ignore it completely. While we were thinking about that though, you okay? Oh no, yeah, I'm great. My mind just works like that sometimes. I just can't stop thinking about something once it's seated in my brain. Well, there were many times when I saw you just looking into nothing. Is that what you were doing? Pretty much. Yeah. He stared at my eyes for a good 10 seconds before I looked away awkwardly. You're really unique, mate. Did you know that? Unique as in weird and social awkward. Unique as in handsome and interesting. Yeah, here we go again. Why do my cheeks turn so red each time he flirts? I should be immune to it by now. But nope, there I go again, acting like lover struck. acting like a level-struck idiot. Besides, it's not like he means or any of that. He's just trying to get under my pants. And anyways, do you need something? Not really. I just saw you come in and got curious. Well, now you know. Almond's eyes grew wide. Then I soon realized what I had just said and how I said it. Wait, shit, that came out wrong. I didn't mean to be rude. I just meant like, now you know what I'm doing. As in, that was the reason you followed me here, right? It's not that I'm gonna laugh at my expense as I wouldn't stop talking. Then he looked at me and winked. You have to make it up to me. How about you come with me? How about you come with me, mate? There's another place we can scratch from your exploration list. I don't have a list. Don't be silly. Although maybe I should make one. I'm sure I haven't even explored 10% of the entirety of the castle. Where will we go anyway? It's a surprise. Right after saying that, the wolf turned around and started walking towards the side door. Me, on the other hand, just watched him walk. Well, you coming, mate? His voice snapped me out of my thoughts and I still followed. I wasn't sure if this would be a good idea or what could go wrong, right? We walked for over 20 minutes. We walked for over 20 minutes. Going through many halls and even more stairs, which all seemed to descend deeper and deeper into the earth. Almond was mostly silent, which is weird coming from him. So it made me wonder if he was up to something. So, where are we going exactly? Told you, mate. Secret. Oh, come on, not even that hint. Nope, but we're almost there. Just a bit further, mate. I groaned at his response, but followed, nevertheless, like the good little pusso I am. I mean, he could be a serial killer taking me to his lair, and yet there I was. We pushed through a small gap on the stone wall and... Luckily for me, there was no serial killer there to be found. Instead, a breathtaking sight opened up before us. An underground cave with clear water, ponds, and shining blue crystals above, which, alongside a small gap in the ceiling, were the only light sources. That combination of factors made this place look magical, as if a fairy would emerge from the water at any moment and grant us our wish. I walked around, incapable of believing my eyes. Distracted as I was, I slipped on a puddle, but as I was to fall into a pond, a soft hand grabbed mine, preventing the disaster. Careful, mate. You wouldn't want to fall in one of those with your clothes on, would you? Thanks. What's this place anyway? It's an underground hot spring. Pretty neat, eh? It's natural hot water? Yeah, it's my personal little spot. Just to confirm it, I crouched down near one of the ponds and dipped my fingers inside. Like he said, the water was very warm, surprisingly hotter than I was expecting. How long has this been here? Ever since they built the castle, they pumped the water from down here all the way up there. That's how they get constant hot water for their baths. Oh, now that you mention it, I did wonder about how they did it. I figured it was something magical, but this makes more sense. Yeah, castle's built on top of an inactive volcanic crater sealed away millennia ago. Amazing. I turned around to get a hold of the magnificent view. It was simply magical. I always thought that royals were just idiots with a lot of money. But after seeing the way this castle was built, I might reconsider. Oh my heavens. For goodness sake, cover yourself. Before my very eyes lay the naked and extremely well-built figure of the wolf. I covered my eyes as soon as I noticed, but I got a good handful of wolf before I did so. What? No way, mate. I didn't take you all the way here just to talk. Besides, what's the issue? We're both men. Come on, let's dip. The wolf walked closer to me, and I could feel the warmth emanating from his body. I tried my best not to look at him, but he was just there in his entirety. Every inch of his body was in the nude, and I was being so uptight that I didn't even want to catch a peek. Alright, mate, come on. Don't be such a prude. The war is perfect. Just get in slowly, or else the heat will get to your head. The wolf slowly stepped away from me, and then got into the water an inch at a time. He was being so nonchalant about the fact that he was naked that I honestly had a hard time understanding him. How is this man raised? Does he have no decency? Although, to be honest, part of me wants to say, just fucking enjoy him. Go wild, at least just this once. Fuck, I don't know. What should I do? Go wild. Man, I really shouldn't be doing this. A million alarms are going off in my head, telling me that this is a bad idea. But a hot guy, whom I've had the hots for, is waiting for me with his hot naked body in a hot spring. Now I dare you to tell me that's not hot. So I forced myself to push down all my insecurities, and then I started to get undressed. First the shirt, then the shoes, and finally the pants. Although, when I made it to my underwear, I turned my attention to Almond, who was still looking at me. Could you give me some privacy? Oh, yeah, sir, mate. My bad. As the wolf turned around, I dropped my undies to the ground and then put them on top of the pile. I made sure to leave my clothes far away from the water, as I didn't want to make the climb back up being soaked. And then, with a heavy sigh, I approached the pond. The wolf was still not looking at me, probably knowing me well enough to understand that if he did, I would most likely turn tail. He was being very understanding with my reservations, which I highly appreciate. The water was really hot, so I went in slowly, inch by inch. I felt the heat surging through my body, and once my hips were already in, a jolt of electricity ran down my spine like a whip. It was both strange and extremely pleasurable. Okay, you can turn around now, but don't make a fuss about it, right? The wolf turns around to meet my eyes, although he didn't linger there for long, as they immediately traveled down the first chance he got. He had this stupid, satisfied smile on his face as he checked me out. Although I can't be on the moral high ground in this case, as my eyes also decide to wander all over his attractive body. His six-pack, his chest, his legs, and the treasure trail leaned to his. It was just a moment of silence in which we both looked at each other, but eventually I couldn't take it anymore. I had to say something. Come on, man, cut it out. I covered myself and looked away, blushing deeply as I knew he was still watching. Well, you told me not to make a fuss about it, mate. This is me, not making a fuss at all. Almond. I froze in place as I heard him approaching, but as I looked at him, he wasn't eyeing me out like a predator to his prey. Instead, he looked at me with worry in his eyes. I closed my eyes at whatever had to come, preparing myself to be groped inappropriately once more but no matter how long I waited, the move never came. Come on, mate. You're in the most relaxing place in the whole kingdom, and you're stiff as a board. I'm gonna test your shoulders. Why? It's a yes or no question, mate. So go ahead. Just the shoulders, though. Don't try anything funny. He will place his hands on my shoulders, and without making any unnecessary or lewd moves, he started to rub them. At first I didn't know what to make of that, but eventually I gave into the sensation, feeling the tension being rubbed away. You get that? I've been told. Oh really? By who? We don't need to talk about them. It's just between you and me. I decided to ignore the implications of that comment for now, as though we didn't want him to stop. The wolf started to nudge my shoulders with such expertise that all words that came out of my mouth turned into soft moans. His hands were working their way around my back muscles one by one, applying good pressure when necessary and then massaging the pain away. That plus the warm water were soon putting me in a state of extreme relaxation. Oh, goddesses. Enjoy yourself, mate. I was feeling so comfortable that I ended up leaning on my body, allowing me to feel every inch of it. And when I say every inch, I mean it. If you get hard, I will kill you. We'll just have to wait and see, won't we? Almond, relax, mate. You're teasing. Your tensing up again. Besides, I'm not the one who should be worrying about that. What? God, is this? I turned away from him as fast as I could, taking a few preventive steps as a precaution. My red pocket was in full display, so I turned around and hit it with my hands to the best of my ability. I told him not to try anything funny. Mate, how is that even my fault? Don't play coy with me. You were using your almond charms all along. You did it again, didn't you? By the time the accusations left my mouth, it was already too late. Seeing his ears drop and his tail tucked between his legs made me feel a cruel sting of guilt piercing my heart. I wanted to apologize, I swear I did, but the words just wouldn't leave my mouth. Maybe we should leave before the heat gets to our head here. Almond and I. Alright, mate, or you'll have to go back on your own. My smile came back faster than I would have expected, but there was something clearly wrong with it. It wasn't a good smile, and I didn't like it, not one bit. The sound resonated through the entire room, forcing me to jolt awake from my sleep. Who could it be this early in the morning? I thought to myself as I rolled around bed, putting a pillow on my head in an attempt to quieten the knocking. Personally, whoever it was could wait. I haven't had a good night's sleep in too long. The intensity of the knocking was getting louder and louder, so I placed a second pillow on top of my head, hoping that it would protect me from the sound. Oh, for fuck's sake, someone better be dying. Coming, I said as I rolled around in bed towards the edge of the bed, lowering my feet and sitting up. As my feet touched the cold stone floor, a single goosebump bristled all my fur. I remained in a seated position, trying to collect myself, as I was still a little groggy from just waking up. Rubbing my temples, I stood up from the bed and walked towards the door. I was wearing my underwear only, so let's hope this visitor doesn't expect any decency. I grabbed the handle and opened the door far enough for just my snout to poke through. Yes, what is it? On the other side, I managed to see Roderick tapping impatiently on the ground. The wolf's ears perked up at the sound of my voice, and as he turned around, our eyes met for a split second. Morning what? Hey, morning. Do you need something? Roger huffed at the question as if I had just said something so ridiculous that he could hardly believe it. No one. I just wanted to see your pretty face. I rolled my eyes at the sarcasm as a faint smile escaped his lips. Aren't you a dear? But really, what do you need? I need to drop by the prison later this afternoon. Know how to get there? No, but I can ask. Why though? There's a situation. We've been trying to interrogate a prisoner, but he won't budge. In any case, he told us he will only talk to you, so I need your help. Why on me? Hell if I know, but this is his last chance. Okay, I'll see what I can do. Good, that's all I ask. He nodded and then turned around, but before he left altogether, the wolf stopped in his tracks to look at me over his shoulder. If he doesn't talk soon, we won't have any other choice but to execute him. Bear that in mind. With that final warning, the man left for good. I then returned to bed, although I decided to just lay there with my eyes open as I wasn't feeling like sleeping anymore. Man, what a way to start my morning. Oh no, not again. I had just managed to fall asleep. Please go away. Whoever you are, leave. Master, it's me, Zach. Zach, please, I'm very sleepy. Yes, Master, of course, but I wouldn't bother you if this wasn't important. But may I please come in? You're not going to leave me. You're not going to leave no matter what I say, right? No? Then fine, come in. As I said that, I rolled around on the bed for the second time this morning, and once again I sat at the edge of it with my feet gently touching the cold floor. The dog wasted no time pushing the door open and slipping inside, his tail wagging slowly and anxiously. His fur, normally sleek and well-groomed, was slightly ruffled. His eyes, though bright, carried a hint of worry. Master, you really need to see this, Zach said, his voice urgent but respectful. He dropped an envelope on my lap, then he started fidgeting as he waited for me to open it. A letter? Yes, Master, it's marked with the seal of Arcanus, and it is addressed personally to you. So, Echolas said it. As I noticed the dog's worried expression, I raised my eyebrow at him, silently inquiring what was wrong. So, please don't be mad, but I may have read it, and, well, butlers are not really supposed to do that. I promise I will punish myself accordingly. It was a mere moment of weakness. Please forgive me. Oh, is that all? That's what you were worried about? The dog's ears dropped as he looked down, his tail tucked between his legs. It was honestly adorable. Well, I'm not mad, so don't worry. I'm not going to let you punish yourself for something so silly. Zach's ears perked up slightly at my reassurance, though his tail remained tucked. He glanced up with a mix of relief and lingering anxiety. Really, Master? He asked, his voice almost tentative. Yes, really. Just don't do it again. But now that I know you've already read it, let's cut to the chase and just tell me what it says, okay? Zach's posture relaxed a bit, and he shuffled closer, clearly eager to assist. Yes, of course, Master. The letter is an invitation to a formal reunion in the Royal Library. Apparently, Lord Ecalis is allowed to bring a +1, and he thought of you as his best option. Really? I'm literally the least fancy person he knows. Besides another ball? Damn, I'm not sure if I'm feeling up for something like that. Well, he did say he would really appreciate your company, but I'm sure he will understand if you don't feel like going. Yeah, you're probably right. Still, I would hate to disappoint him. Images of a sad Icarus dancing by himself and being constantly bothered by his awful family made me feel terrible about even considering not going. Still, I wasn't sure if I was ready to go through an experience similar to last week's ball. This is say when the reunion will take place. It appears to be set for today's evening, Master. So you would most likely have to start getting ready before the sun sets entirely. I see. Around the same time Roger asked me to meet him. Well, let's not send him a proper response yet. I need to consider my options. As you wish, Master. I leave you be for now. And with that said, the small dog left the room, making sure to close the door behind him. As the door clicked shut, I took a moment to sit quietly, the letter still resting on my lap. Well, maybe I shouldn't sleep any longer. The day went by faster than expected, and before I knew it, the sun was already setting in the horizon. Its light painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, casting long shadows across the landscape. At the time, I was just relaxing under a tree as usual, trying not to think about my responsibilities or the fact that I would either have to go help in someone's interrogation or attend yet another high society social gathering. Both options I was clearly not looking forward to. So yeah, as you probably guessed, I was just stalling the inevitable. However, before I could make up my mind, I noticed a certain wolf sitting by himself at the top of a tower. I knew Almond was good at climbing, but damn, he got some heavy balls to be chilling in such a high place. The idea alone was enough to send a chill down my spine. What a crazy idiot. Although the more I looked at him, the more it seemed like his head was tucked in between his legs. I mean, I obviously couldn't hear him from where I was, but it certainly gave me that impression. What my eyes trying to make sense of what I was seeing. It was unusual for Almond to seek solace so openly, especially considering the many fun places he could go to. Besides, I couldn't recall ever seeing him like this. He was often so happy and carefree, so I couldn't help but wonder if he needed someone to talk to. Although, now that I think about it, there was a situation with that royal man that left me with a bitter taste. As if those two had some previous bad blood, so maybe this has something to do with that. In any case, I wasn't sure if I even had the time to talk to the wolf right now. I had two other compromises and only one me. So a decision needed to be made, and fast. I was running out of time. So who should I spend my afternoon with? Almond. I should really go check on him. I'm getting a little worried. Besides, if he's feeling a little blue, I suppose I should be there for him. It's the least I can do for everything he's done for me. So with that in mind, I stood up for him. I stood from under the tree and soon got in motion. Each step I took brought me closer to Almond, but also deepened the pit in my stomach. What could have possibly reduced the proud and carefree wolf to this state? It took me a good 10 minutes to reach the entrance to Almond's bedroom, which was situated on the left wing of the castle at the 5th floor. I knocked on the wooden door, waiting for a cheerful "come in," which was typical of the wolf, although as I had feared, only silence met my call. His door was slightly open, so I let myself in after 20 seconds without an answer. The inside of his room was messy and a bit dirty, which was also typical of the wolf. However, there was something more concerning about this sight than the mess itself, because even though he's often careless, all of the stuff on the floor seemed to have been thrown around on purpose. Could it be that he had a fight with someone, or perhaps he was so angry that he crashed the room? Whatever it was, I now felt an even stronger need to talk to him. So seeing the side window wide open, I climbed through and made my way into Wolf's castle. I tried not to look down as I attempted to keep my balance and precipitate myself to my death. Almond was sitting a few feet ahead, with his back turned towards me, looking worse for wear. He didn't notice me at first, lost in whatever storm was raging inside of his head. His shoulders were hunched forward, his arms resting on his knees, and he hadn't moved an inch since I first spotted him from below. I hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say or how to approach him. However, seeing this side of Almond was really getting to me, so I soon pushed the nervousness in my own gut to give room to something else. Sympathy. So I approached him, sat beside him, and cleared my throat softly to catch his attention. "Hey, Almond." You see him twitch slightly at the sound of my voice, but he didn't turn around. I could see his hands clenching into fists as he watched his face, lifting his head slightly to meet my gaze over his shoulder. I could also see he was holding a piece of paper on his left hand, which after a quick glance looked like a letter. "What are you doing here?" He muttered, his voice rough and strained, a far cry from the jovial tone he was usually carried. I moved a little closer, touched his bicep slightly, in an attempt to establish some sort of contact with the wolf. He didn't move away or say anything, so I took that as a good sign. "I saw you up here. Thought you might want some company." Almond scoffed, though it sounded more like a weak attempt to sound tough. "Oh, goddess, this man and his fragile ego." "I'm fine, mate. No need for you to worry." "Almond." "Mate, seriously, I'm fine. I can deal with it on my own." I found, feeling a strange mix of anger and concern bubbling up inside me. "You know, you don't have to. Whatever's bothering you, I'm here for you. You don't have to go through it alone." There was a moment of silence between us for a while, and I could feel the weight of his internal struggle. Finally he spoke, though his voice was barely above a whisper. "I got a letter." "Okay." That's all I said, giving him enough room to keep talking, but also giving him the reassurance that I was listening to him. My family sent it. "Oh wow, this is the first mention of a family I've ever gotten from the wolf. He's finally opening up." "My brother. I believe you met him at the royal ball last week. His name is Snow Clearwater." My eyes opened wide as plates, as I wasn't expecting such a big name to be related to someone like Almond. I mean, does this mean Almond is royalty? Perhaps I should start treating him with more respect. That's not surprising. What did he say? Here, read it for yourself. The wolf handed me the piece of paper, which I grabbed with extreme care, trying not to let it be carried by the afternoon wind. The contents of it read, "Dear Almond, how have you fared, brother? How have you fared? Have you fared? Has life been treating you fairly? I constantly pray to the goddesses for the answer of that question to be yes, but life has never been fair for you, has it? In any case, I don't want to bore you with mindless questions, as I know you won't answer back to my lesser. Still, I really wish you would come back home. There's so much I want to talk about. There's so much to make up for. So please, brother, if you will allow me to do just that, I would love to meet you again. I'd already talked with the king, and he thought it would be okay for us to see each other. Yeah, I don't want you to feel pressured by this proposal. I'll be at the castle for a week. If you decide not to come before I leave, it will be all the proof I need to let you go. But if you do come, I assure you, I will make it up to you for everything I've done. Always yours, Snow Clearwater. Oh wow, this letter was so loaded with feelings that it even felt heavy in my paw. I glanced up at Almond, whose gaze was fixed on the horizon. His jaw clenched tight. There was nothing really for me to say. I realized I simply didn't know enough about him as to find the right words. The letter contained a lot, 2 months really. It was clear that whatever had gone down between Almond and his family, particularly Snow, ran deeper than a simple sibling rivalry. This was something darker, more personal. What are you going to do? I limited myself to say only that I didn't want to overstep. I mean, I was missing crucial information to make a judgment call on this subject. Was the brother evil? Was he good? I need more details. You going to meet up with him? I asked, gently folding the letter and then handing it back to him. He left. He left yesterday. When I got the letter, I didn't open it at all. But then I caught one that he was already leaving, and I didn't think it would hurt this much. I shouldn't have opened it. It was a stupid decision. Almond's voice wavered, the weight of his decision pushing him down. He squeezed the letter in his paw as if the fragile paper could somehow bear the brunt of his feelings. I thought that knowing it would make it easier. I told him that if I didn't read it, I wouldn't have to deal with it. Everything. But now, I'm starting to regret it a little, you know? I may hate his guts, but it wasn't always like this. I shifted uncomfortably, unsure of how to respond. This was new territory for both of us, and I wasn't sure if Almond wanted comfort or just someone to listen to. Do you want to talk about it? I said softly, taking a deep breath as I was trying to find the right words. I didn't want to mess up my chance to finally connect with the wolf in a deeper way. Almond looked up at me, finally meeting my eyes. His beautiful green eyes were red and puffy from all the crying. Even when he tried to smile, I knew for a fact that was not an authentic Almond smile. Alright, I trust it. Let me tell you the story of the Clearwaters. Almond took a deep breath, and while looking at the horizon, he started talking. It all started with a man called Ludwig Clearwater, lord of the Clearwater dynasty and only a legitimate heir to the house. Ludwig was a man of emotions, driven by the desires of his heart, a strong believer that compassion and love were as strong as any weapon. He ruled over the entire Dominance province with this belief in mind. The thing is, royals don't believe in true love, like Ludwig did. So when he turned 25, he was forced to marry the daughter of an important political figure in the land, Cassandra Melster, an Arctic wolf of gorgeous white fur. Cassandra and Ludwig ruled together. They even had 2 beautiful babies whose names were Sugar, the eldest daughter, and Cloud, the eldest son. His life was perfect. He had power, a beautiful wife, 2 wonderful kids, and a descendant who would take after him when he became old and ill. Well, that's what everyone thought, but in reality, Ludwig was not happy. He loved his kids very much. He was a wonderful husband and an even better ruler, but he never found the one thing he wanted the most: true love. Or so he thought, because 6 years after he got married to Cassandra, a woman named Emerald started working at the castle. Emerald was a simple woman. In fact, she was born as the 5th daughter of a very poor family. That meant no fancy dresses, no fancy makeup, No fancy hairstyles and not even fancy fur color. It was brown and ordinary, in contrast to that of Cassandra's. And yet, whenever she smiled, it would take Ludwig's breath away. Soon enough, they fell in love. Ludwig found what he wanted the most, a woman who loved him for who he was, and not for who he was supposed to be. So, even if it was forbidden, they promised themselves to each other. And for not promise, a baby was born. A brown baby, unlike his other kids, with features so similar to his father's that doubling his heritage would be folly. Ludwig was overjoyed with this, but his happiness was short-lived, as Emerald died a few hours after giving birth to their son. This son was not the last of Ludwig's kids, though, as just a year later, Clearwater was born. In any case, it's easy to believe that the bastard's life would be a happy one. After all, he was the son of Ludwig and had with the woman he truly loved. But no, things are never that easy. Cassandra wanted the kid to be executed, but Ludwig managed to quell her rage by saying the kid would be just another servant. And just like that, the kid grew under the wing of his father and the constant abuse of his stepmother and half-siblings. But not all was bad. The younger Snow took a liking to the bastard. They would often play together, eat together, and sometimes away from the eyes of the others do sleepovers. They were really happy. But good things never last for a bastard, as in the middle of a very cold and unforgiving winter, Lord Ludwig fell ill and died, giving the throne to his eldest son, Cloud. Cloud, influenced by his mother, gave word to execute the young bastard, who at the time was just 14 years old. Little Snow heard this, and was towards the small tower where his brother slept, informing him of the situation and begging for him to leave the castle at once. The bastard did as instructed and fled that very same night. He survived on his own for over 10 years, trying his best to forget his royal lineage or to even think about his past family. But one day he received a letter from his dear brother Snow. Apparently both Cassandra and Cloud had died of a plague that had hit the castle a few months ago. He begged his brother to come back, assuring him that now that he was Lord of the Clearwaters, he could come home. The bastard, who was hesitant at first, but the memory of his dear brother convinced him to return. Once he made it home, though, instead of the warm arms of his brother, he was met by the cold realization that he had been played for a fool. Cassandra, Cloud, and many guards were waiting for him, ready to imprison him. Even though the bastard tried to escape, this time he didn't manage to. A few months after, a party was planned to celebrate the execution of the Clearwater bastard. The brown wolf had already anticipated his fate. Months of imprisonment and solitude can do much harm to the mind. So he was ready to die. But fate is a tricky thing, and apparently word of his execution had reached the king, a king who was close friends with Ludwig and knew how much this bastard meant to his late companion. So only hours before his supposed death, the wolf was set free. Given a second chance, he swore loyalty to the same king that had saved his hide, and so far he hasn't regretted doing so. Once he was done with his story, Almond sighed deeply and then looked me in the eyes. I thought I was the one supposed to be crying, he said with a soft smile plastered all over his handsome face. I hadn't even noticed, but indeed I had gotten teary-eyed over the course of Almond's story. Sorry, I said while wiping out the tears. It's just, man, that's so fair. Almond's smile softened even further. His eyes were gentle and understanding, but still carried a lot of sadness in them. You don't have to apologize. I know it's a lot. Maybe I shouldn't have told you. I shook my head, still wiping at my eyes, embarrassed by my own reaction. No, I'm glad you did. It's just, I can't believe you had to go through all of that. It's so unfair. You deserve so much better. You still do. Almond's gaze flickered, as though my words had struck something deep inside him. For a moment he didn't respond, just watched me with an expression I couldn't read. His usual bravado seemed to have slipped away, revealing something raw and vulnerable underneath. You really are one of a kind. I tilted my head at this comment, incapable of understanding if it was an insult or a compliment. What do you... Before I could say another word, the wolf whipped and threw the letter into the great abyss and then looked back into the horizon. Thank you for listening, mate. For caring. I gave him a weak nod, trying to downplay the emotions swirling within me. So, not wanting to let this opportunity go, I moved closer to the wolf and laid on his shoulder. I wanted to let him know that he wasn't alone. That's what friends are for, right? Almond chuckled, the sound low and warm, and for a moment the tension in his shoulders eased. Yeah, friends, he said while smiling, though there was something in his voice that made me wonder if there was more he was letting on. I looked at him, and the way the fading sunlight framed his face, highlighting the strength and softness in equal measure, made me feel certain things. Suddenly, the idea of being just friends felt a lot more complicated than it had a few minutes ago. And that's it for now. I know he wanted more, but for now, that's all I had to show you. Things are developing nicely, don't you think? The boys seem to be more closer to Ellie, and each one of them has a different way of showing it. That's why I love to write them. They're each so different, which in turn makes their stories unique. However, that also makes each of their personal problems more complex and intimate, and I want to give each of them the time and care they deserve as their arcs unfold. Aside from that, I want to say I'm truly sorry for taking almost a year to publish this update. To be honest, there were moments in which I thought it would never come out. Moments in which I got so overwhelmed by my day-to-day life that I actually considered dropping the project altogether. University, finding a part-time job, and learning to handle my own expenses have all been huge changes in my life. Changes that have taken a lot of time, energy, and emotional space. Still, even when I felt like letting go, the story and you guys were always there, waiting for me. In many ways, it has become, as still, something that helped me cope with the chaos of adult life. It reminds me of who I am, what I love, and what I want to keep building, even when things get hard. Thank you for your patience, your kindness, and for sticking with me all this time. Every comment, every bit of encouragement, every silent read, it all means the world to me. Also, many thanks to the wonderful people that decided to give me their time. After years of developing the game alone, I finally found a team that I trust. It's thanks to them that the process of making Heart of Amethyst has become more manageable for me, so thank you kindly for that. I'm back to making my own CGs, and I tried my best to learn proper drawing and painting techniques to make these scenes look as special as possible. I really hope you liked them. Last but not least, to my loyal patrons, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Without your constant support, this project and my career as a creator would be nothing more than dreams. However, with you helping me out, this is actually becoming a reality. I'm so sorry for the months in which I published nothing, though. I'll try to apply myself more so I can be consistent with the publications. And well, I think that's all I wanted to say. If you're interested in supporting me in this project, please consider joining my Patreon. Or if you just want to stay tuned with everything related to Heart of Amethyst, maybe follow me on Twitter or join the Discord server. Whatever you decide to do, as long as you're here, that's the most important part. This story is growing with me, and I'm so grateful to have you all on the journey. Please have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey, so Almond's a bastard child. So I've got the names, but the one who was like the heir, I guess, or like I guess the anyway. Almond's father, biological father, he was like the heir to this region. They govern different regions of the kingdom, and he was the heir. He's a noble, and he married another noble. A wife was a noble, and but he ended up having a child by this commoner, this commoner woman that he really truly loved, and that child is Almond. So the biological father, who's I guess the noble, the leader of this region, he dies, and the oldest child of the kids that he's been having with his wife, his noble wife, takes over, and his wife always wanted Almond to be executed. He wanted him to be executed because he's a bastard child, but she never succeeded in doing that. And however, once the eldest son the of the Almond's father, the one between Almond and the noble wife, the wife that the father had to marry, was the oldest son of that pair, took over the reins. The wife talked her son into having Almond executed, I believe, and the guy that guy at the ball that we met, and Almond got so upset over. He warned Almond of what was going to happen and told him that he needed to flee, and Almond did so, and for over a decade he was gone, and then he got a letter back from the younger brother, his younger brother, the one we met at the ball, who wanted to see Almond. He sent a letter to Almond, wanted him to come back, and that the wife and the eldest son died of a plague, and Almond came back, and turns out it was a lie. I don't know if he lied himself, or he was threatened by his mother and his brother, or what else. But anyway, that's probably the reason why. Well, that's the reason why Almond got so upset, because he brought him back to something that wasn't true. And the wife and the elder brother, still alive, tried to have him executed, but the king was friends with Almond's father, and his father was very happy of Almond. He would say very favorable things to Almond, well, to the king anyway. His father would say very favorable things about Almond to the king, and because of that, the king saved Almond's life, and he's been in the castle ever since. So, yeah, so he wants nothing to do with his younger brother. And it was understandable now. So I'm happy we got to learn about that. And yeah, so we always saw Almond snap at Ellie when Ellie talked about him talking to his younger brother who was in the ball, and that made Almond upset. There's just a memory and this his brother being there. This upset him so much, and then we got to revisit it this time, and we got to see Almond again, all sad and just depressed. So yes, we get to see a different side of him from the horny, happy, optimistic person we usually see him as being. Um, about Ellie's relationship with Almond, I understand that he's very flirty and horny and all that stuff, but I think Ellie could learn to loosen up a little bit instead of being too prudish and just. I mean, I understand there's boundaries and Almond can push those boundaries at times, but I think he should. I think Ellie should, just open up a little bit, and just be a little comfortable being nude about him. I mean, now obviously, like if he tries to do anything sexual to Ellie, then he has a right to set boundaries and tell him to stop. But I think Ellie's just loosen up around Almond some. So he's certainly the more playful of the three so far. Like both Almond, I mean, because both Ekalis and Wazir are very serious. Wazir being very serious and stern, and no nonsense type of person, and Ekalis being very serious about his job and him having boundaries like Ellie. So he's the one that just doesn't seem to have really much in boundaries at all. So I really I really like Almond the most out of the three. So it seems a lot of people like Almond the most also. So I'm pretty sure many people agree with me with that. Bye bye. And I gotta say bye bye also. So next time we'll do content for Wazrick. We'll see more of him, and then after that we'll see Ekalis. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.